Hi, and welcome to the I Teed Myself podcast. My name is Matthew Miniman, and this is episode 118. What can a bear in a taxi teach us about AI? So, I know you guys have all seen the instant classic, the amazing film, the Oscar-winning performance of Samuel L. Jackson in Snakes on a Plane, where he just wants to get these motherfucking snakes off his motherfucking plane. And you probably haven't seen the follow-up movie, Bear in a Taxi. And to kind of summarize what this film would be about if it actually been made, it's about a bear in a taxi and a man's attempt to get him out of it. And it goes about as well as you could possibly think. I don't know if you've ever seen the interior of a car when a bear gets locked into a car and suddenly finds itself unable to get out, but it is exactly what you would expect. The interior is torn apart. Everything is just thrashed, and it is awful. Now, I know you guys have all already listened to my wonderful episode on AI before, where we talked about how AI is nothing more, the current implementation of AI is nothing more than just a very tall tree that the decisions fall down to end up with a very ugly output, much like your sister falling out of the ugly tree. But AI, as it has evolved, the tree has gotten larger and the branches more numerous, and the decisions are becoming more and more lifelike and or have a tendency to look like they are reality. And this is both good and bad because AI is turning out better quality things. It's more reliable. You're getting less hallucinations, or at least your hallucinations are less obvious. There may not be any more of them or any less of them than there were before, but they're definitely more subtle if there are hallucinations at all. It's hard to tell sometimes. But we have come a long way, but that does not mean we are fully in an era where we can trust AI. There is a lot to be said about how AI is implemented in a lot of organizations. And with this episode, I really just kind of wanted to touch on the proper implementation of AI before this topic becomes stale and what I'm about to say becomes obsolete, in about 2 weeks. So anyway, here we go. Let's try this. Let's try to move through this. So one of the things that we need to discuss are kind of some of the terms. We need to define some terms of AI. And if you don't recognize these terms, that's okay. At least as far as they come across with AI, that's okay. We'll define them. But there are some very primary things we have to cover with AI in how it's implemented right now. And I'm probably going to miss a few key terms for some of you folk, and I may say them, but these are the big ones that we kind of need to understand with this conversation. And so the first one is model. And well, actually, let me just list all of them. So we have model, agent, function, task, prompt, weights, contextual, decision tree, and consequential. So those are the terms that we're looking for, and we should probably define up front. So model is basically the brain of your AI. It is how your AI is trained. It is the information your AI is given in order to perform the operations and tasks that you've given it. This is information that is pulled from a source or a variety of sources that matches a format that the AI can digest and understand in aggregate. And so how your AI is performing and what it's supposed to be doing are a direct result of the model. If you give an AI, a language AI, something that is supposed to be translating or understanding, transcripting, if you give that AI information on baseball statistics, it's probably not going to do a whole lot. It's probably not going to work very well. So one, your model that you have chosen for your AI must be properly chosen. And in the last episode, I talked about how AI really isn't AI right now. It's just a large language model that's been given a decision tree, and that's still true. But we are getting to a point where we're making that shift into a true AI solution because we're implementing things like agents, tasks, and functions. So to understand fully what an agent is, you have to basically understand that if you build an AI and implement a model, it really can't do anything by itself. It's not going to perform any tasks by itself. It's not going to just magically know how to do something or magically know that it can do something. That's not how this works. It requires some level of you telling it what to do. And so an agent is basically you providing it with instructions. It's giving it, hey, you can do this. These are things that you can do. We want you to do this. Now, those instructions can be very complex. They can be very broad, and they can have a very wide impact. But generally, those tasks that you get the things that you're telling the AI to do are basically up to your ability to tell it how to do those things. And building an AI agent to tell other AI agents what they can and cannot do, that's a thing that can happen. Yes, absolutely. You just have to build it properly. And so those tasks that you are giving it, tasks being what I'm going to tell you to do, are performed by the functions you program into your agent. And so again, an AI is built. If you're going to have an AI do something, you're going to have to tell it what it can do by giving it a function that it can perform a task against. And so if you tell an AI, hey, I want you to translate this document from English to Spanish or whatever, you're going to have to tell it that it can do that, one, and how to do that, two. And so those again are the functions that you've programmed into your agent, and the tasks that you're providing it are going to be performed against that function with that agent. Now, as far as all of that's concerned, the information that you're giving it, where you're telling it what do you want it to do, that's the prompt that you're giving it. Now, your agents and your functions and your tasks, if you program those all in and you have them implemented appropriately, your prompt has to follow that information accordingly. This is all in a best case scenario where you're implementing all of these things and they are working flawlessly. And it can take some time to get that right, especially if you are doing this with vibe coding and you're a moron and not entirely sure what you're doing. And I say that not because I think you're a moron by trying. I'm saying that because you're a moron if you're doing this without knowing what the fuck you're doing. We'll get into that later. So then from there, we have contextual information. So contextual information versus decision tree information. These are the ways that you're allowing your AI to make decisions and do things. So contextual information is you're allowing an AI to identify its path forward based off of the context of what it's received and what it knows. And this is a leap forward in the ability for you to tell your computer what to do. Because basically with contextual information, with contextual decision making, this is where AI really does a good job of mimicking true intelligence, because it's able to identify information and kind of make decisions based off of that context. But with the imperfect nature of the models, those decisions are not going to be 100% accurate. It's not going to be a math calculation, which is what a decision tree is. So they are not necessarily opposites, but they are definitely two sides of the same coin. Where you have a contextual decision tree that is amorphous, and it can be unpredictable based on information, because the decision making can change depending on the information that the model has been processing. It can change based off of any number of variables within the model, the environment, whatever. Contextual information is something that it is not consistent, is basically what I'm trying to get at. Whereas a decision tree, a normal decision tree, is a yes or no. Basically, it's just a long decision tree, the classic branch of yes or no, and following that through until you have your answer that you're looking for. And that decision tree is very much a math decision. Yes or no, 1 or 2, 10 or 12, things like that. The decision tree requires that you have your path marked out very well. And so when you are providing your agents with the ability to do things, and you're trying to attempt to give your AI the ability to make decisions or perform tasks, you need to keep in mind how you are basing that information on, or how you're basing the decisions that the AI does, and what the information is doing. For instance, if you're telling an AI, hey, I need you to block all malicious activity on this account, I need you to stop it all. If you tell an AI to do that, that's a very open-ended statement, because what the fuck does malicious mean? You have to define that to the AI, or else it's going to decide what malicious means for itself. And sometimes it might decide that certain things that the user is doing are malicious, and sometimes it'll decide something that an attacker does is fine. That's because the context around what it's seeing, it can be incomplete, and or it can lead it to make wrong decisions. So what we have to do is we have to break that out into a decision tree. We have to tell it, hey, if you see activity outside of this IP address, suspect that it is malicious and block that activity. And we have to give it parameters in which to understand how to make those decisions. We have to make sure that the tasks and functions in it are appropriate. Now, there's another thing in there that I said, parameters, but we can also call those weights. Weights and parameters are essentially the same thing. However, weights are called weights because they're essentially the knobs that we can turn for the AI to make sure that it knows how to make its decisions. So if you're seeing things, if you're seeing an AI or an agent or a model do things incorrectly, it has the right information. It has everything you want to tell it, and it is performing tasks, but it's doing them incorrectly. You can adjust some of those things with weights. Now, again, those weights or parameters can very much break the contextual identification of information that you're seeing. It can very much change how the context of your stuff affects the end solution. Whereas if you continue to have that decision tree where it's given you're basically putting your AI on rails, that really does make your problem, your solution, much more ambiguous if you're using that contextual basis. But if you're using a decision tree, it becomes a yes or no every step of the way. Again, that's basically all we're going through right there. And now the last piece is consequential. Consequential is a term that we need to start using in AI, and Colorado has started using it. And I believe Colorado's AI Act is actually one of the best implementations of an attempt to control AI use in a meaningful way. And it's probably the most progressive that we're going to see for quite some time. And I don't say that just because Colorado is the greatest state in the country and possibly the world, but also because it's formulated intelligently. So to Colorado, a consequential decision is anything that would affect a person long term and in a real sense, in a physical sense. And so to Colorado, a consequential decision affects job, affects their ability to get a place to live, affects their ability to get a loan, affects financial decisions, affects healthcare, affects really anything surrounding what you would normally have as a protected class of person. All of that is based on a consequential decision. That's what they call consequential. And for us, when we talk about consequential in the terms of AI, what we're actually talking about is a decision that has a real world impact. That is a consequential decision. If the consequential decision is something that, I'm deciding that this information is more important than this information, that may not necessarily be a consequential decision if it doesn't affect anything outside of the AI itself or the decision making. So why is a consequential decision important? Well, if a consequential decision is being made by AI, we need to force a human in the loop action in that decision-making process, because human in the loop is exactly what it sounds like. There's somebody there to validate whether or not the decision makes sense, whether or not that it's being made appropriately, and the decision makes sense. Like we have to have somebody there to kind of sanity check the decision and understand why the decision is being made. So also having some sort of historical context for the human to understand how the AI came to that decision is important, because if you don't expose how the AI came to that decision to the human in the loop, they may not understand exactly, one, where the AI went wrong, or two, how it got to that idea. So those are kind of the base terms around what we're looking at for an AI in the now very early part of 2026. And like I said, very soon these terms and ideas will probably change and morph very, very quickly, because that's how fast the AI craze is happening. It's not really a craze. It's just the next bubble, it's the next tech burst to try to make money off of a concept that has been around for a while. So what do we do? What's the proper implementation of this? How are we seeing this affect us in the real world today? Well, we're seeing a lot of these decisions a lot of these AIs and agents and functions being implemented improperly today. And I say that because there have been a lot of things happening that are kind of weird. So for instance, let's talk about Microsoft. Microsoft, my love, my wonder, my dear, my darling, my porcine wonder, Microsoft. It came out, the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, said that nearly 33%, nearly a third of Microsoft's code was written by AI. And that's really fun to think about, because it's like, okay, that's how Microsoft's laying off 20,000 people. Yeah, they're implementing AI. They're blaming it on the fact that they overhired during the pandemic, but it's because they have AI now and they don't think they need those people. And what have we seen since Microsoft said that in May of 2025? Microsoft has had, probably 24 major outages across their infrastructure. And a lot of it could be coincidence. You're right. You who are defending Microsoft out there, I hear you. You may be right. It may be coincidence. They're making decisions. They had DNS misconfigurations. They're implementing certificate chains and things like that. But the number of Microsoft outages, major Microsoft outages, has increased by at least 25% from 2025 to 2026. And 2026 hasn't really even started yet. We're already a month we're not even a month into 2026, and we've already had 3 major outages by Microsoft. We've had 2 major outages by Cloudflare. And Cloudflare also admitted that they've implemented AI into their code base and decision-making processes. And you wonder why these companies are all of a sudden having issues. So this is what happens when you allow AI to make a consequential decision, such as pushing code to a code base and making changes to a DNS system or implementing certificate changes across an environment. You lose the ability for a human to make a decision and see a problem before it happens. You can program an AI to do this, but again, that requires contextual information. And just like humans can make the wrong decision, and AI can make that decision wrong as well. It can just make it wrong a whole hell of a lot faster than the human can make it wrong. So it can be like a bear in a taxi, because what you're doing is you're trapping this AI into an area where it has the ability to quickly affect everything around it. And you have locked it in this vehicle, and it can make these changes, or it can impact everything within the vehicle that it can reach. And it will literally tear the shit out of this vehicle. Yeah, that bear could be docile and just sit in that car. But would you trust that bear in a taxi? I certainly fucking wouldn't. Get this motherfucking bear out this motherfucking taxi. Goddamn. But also, you don't want that AI to be let loose in your code base, in your taxi, in your environment, in your decision making, without giving it the ability to do what it's supposed to, like identify what it's supposed to and build guardrails around where it's supposed to go. Get that bear out of the taxi, get it into I don't know, you want to put that bear, you want to get that bear to a certain place, put it down a luge, an ice luge. We're about to start the Winter Olympics, so ice luge is on my mind. Cool runnings, that sort of thing. Anyway, long story short, the bear needs to go down the luge, and in order to get it down there, you put it on rails, you push it down that path, and it will go where it's supposed to and get there without much muss or fuss. And if you build that appropriately, then you don't have this situation where you've trapped the bear around your code base and you've let it loose to kind of just fuck up your day. Because in the end, when you allow AIs to make consequential decisions, again, they are making decisions based on contextual information, and they are doing so like a human, but also like a human, they can make mistakes. And often AI, like humans, will convince itself that it is correct. And maybe that's where we're really kind of bridging the gap between human intelligence and AI, is that humans can make themselves think they're right an amazing amount of time. I know I do. So does an AI. It can hallucinate all of its problems, all of its solutions by itself without much help from us. And so I think right now is a good place to end this. If you implement AI, if you're looking to implement AI in a solution of your own or in your workplace, in your business, make sure that whatever AI you're using is appropriate for the task. Make sure that it has guardrails. Make sure it's not making decisions based off of contextual information, and instead is making decisions off of a decision tree. Do not allow your AI to perform actions beyond what it is supposed to do. Make sure that you understand what the agents, the models, the tasks are doing, and what the functions are that are given to the agent. Make sure that you understand this. And if you have an AI provider or a service provider who is providing AI as a service, make sure you understand how they have programmed that AI within your organization. Because if you don't, you will have a bear in a taxi and it will fuck you up. That is all I have time for today, guys. I hope you all have a great day.